Hi everyone, it's Bella Day, and this is Life of an Author in Costa Rica. A couple of you have written and mentioned that you're interested in what are some fun facts about Costa Rica. I'll be honest, I didn't know much about the place before I visited the first time. I came here for a writer's retreat with my friend Erica Ridley in the middle of the state, and I actually thought, okay, this is really bad, that Costa Rica was an island. Newsflash, it's not an island. It is in Central America, below Mexico, and then below that is Nicaragua, then there's Costa Rica, and then Panama. So it's just like a little skinny little thing, and Costa Rica goes from the Pacific coast over to the Atlantic Ocean, which is the Caribbean. So, but it's still kind of small. Second interesting fact is that we call people either ticos or gringos. That is not a derogatory term. A tico or tica is someone who's Costa Rican, who born and raised here. A gringo, like myself, we're expatriates. And so when you talk about people, it truly is, well, are they a gringo or a tico? And they refer to themselves as that, which is kind of strange coming from America. There is, and I've even written down my little notes here, 801 miles of coastline in the 7 provinces. And we live on the coastline, which is, it's all scalloped, and the more scalloped it is, the more calm the water is. Where we are, it's very calm. If you go south a little bit, it's not as scalloped, and you get some nice waves. So people come down here to surf. Costa Rica is home to 6 active volcanoes, which is the reason why we have earthquakes, and another 61 dormant or extinct ones. And the only active one is Arenal, which is in the middle of the country, middle north, where my friend Erica lives. And it's like, really? She overlooks the volcano, and it's like, you want to live where it could go off? It's like Pompeii, but apparently she does. This one really surprised me. Costa Rica is smaller than Lake Michigan. Okay, we're not too big. If we drove across the country, though, it might take us 8 hours, so it's not that small. Christopher Columbus landed here in Limon, which is on the Atlantic side, in 1502. I'm guessing it took them 10 years to get down here. And I don't think they like him. It's not like they celebrate him discovering them or anything. I don't think the Spanish were too nice to the Costa Ricans. Coffee was Costa Rica's biggest export. And I don't understand how this sentence follows, but now tourism surpasses it, even though it's not an export. Costa Rica is the 2nd largest exporters of bananas. Who knew? Next to Ecuador. I don't know what I thought, but I didn't know that. And this is my last and favorite, though, and I had no idea. Where we'll be actually visiting this week, because we have to get stuff done, and there's really only one major town in Costa Rica, and that's the capital of San Jose, and it's 4 hours from here. But right next to it is a town called Escazú. It's a suburb, and it is lovely. You don't even know that you're in Costa Rica. I mean, there's Walmart and malls that will rival any in the United States. Everything is very upscale, and you're like, I'm really in Costa Rica. And it has all the name brands. We're actually staying at a courtyard when we go there, and it's next to an Outback Steakhouse. Yeah, the Costa Ricans love all the American food, so all the restaurants are here. Yay! But anyway, the last thing is Costa Rica's Escazú is famous for witchcraft, which I found fascinating. Historically, people took to the mountain caves to secretly practice their religion and magical rites, because most of the country is Catholic. So I can see they'd be a little iffy about it. Despite being a rich suburb of San Jose, brujas, which are witches, can still be found, offering readings of tarot cards and a whole range of other services. Halloween is called El Dia de las Brujas, which I never knew was the Day of the Witches. Not that they really celebrate that here, but it's kind of cool. I will, in the future, be talking about foods in Costa Rica and funerals. And I'm waving hi to all the people who joined me. That's so way cool. If you have any questions for me, I'm going to read my first chapter and give away the book, Awakened by Flames. But if you have any questions that you want me to talk about, I am going to talk about the food and why it's quite different from what I'm used to, and some of the, what I would consider different rituals, things that I'm not really used to, just to what really makes it interesting. And so if you're interested in anything, ask questions. This video will be up for a week, and I said I will be giving away my book Awakened by Flames, which I will pick at the end of the week before I do it next Saturday. So without further ado, let me read to you. I hope it's not too boring. If it is, I'll stop halfway through. This is the first chapter of Awakened by Flames, and this is about dragon shifters. It is a follow-up to the first series, Wares and Witches of Silver Lake, but you don't need to know anything about that. The hero is Finn McKinnon, which he was one of the brothers of the McKinnons in the first series. But again, you don't need to know that. So you can totally start new with this first series, and the first book is only 99 cents because I love the series so much. I really want people to get in it for cheap. So, fire exploded through Kalina Sinclair's body. She stiffened as the poison coursed through her system, stretching and then contracting her veins. The inability to stop the shooting arrows of pain from attacking her heart made her pulse rate race faster than any dragon could fly. To keep from falling off the bar stool, she gripped the shiny counter in front of her, all the while trying to make sense of what was happening. Sounds faded. The bartender's face blurred, and her mouth turned sand dry. Then the sheer terror of possible death slammed into her. "Are you okay?" the bartender asked. Or at least that's what she thought he said. "I think so." Embarrassment made her lie. Because it would only take a minute for her dragon to heal her. She tried to relax. "It's hilarious," her dragon said. "This will take time. I'm sorry." Oh, shit. That stuff was very rare, and if ground into a dust that ingested, it was extremely dangerous to a dragon. Well, it wouldn't kill her outright. If she were lured into battle in her weakened state, it could be deadly. Had Christian, a stranger who'd asked her to dance, slipped it into her drink? Or had the bartender laced her wine when she and Christian were on the dance floor? Eyes wide, Kalina looked around to see if anyone else was experiencing the same devastation. Most were shifters, but many of the humans who frequented the bar didn't mind mingling with them. From what Kalina could tell, no one seemed to have been affected. She almost came here every Friday night to the Wings bar, but it had always been safe. Until now. After their one dance, she and Christian returned to the bar, and that was when he excused himself to use the facilities. Perhaps he was ill too. Had she and Christian both been drugged? Or had he been responsible for the burning acid wreaking havoc inside her? Clea didn't want to think she was that bad a judge of character. "Get us out of here," her dragon pleaded. She tried to push back the bar stool, but her muscles failed to cooperate. Suddenly, Christian appeared next to her, looking healthy. "Geez, Kalina, you don't look so good," he said, full of sympathy. She swayed and Christian steadied her. "Easy there, what happened?" "I think someone doused my drink." The bartender placed a glass of water on the bar. "Drink this. It'll make you feel better." She reached to take it, but then thought he might have been the one to lace her drink, so she let her hand return to gripping the counter. Before she was able to turn around, a wave of nausea nearly knocked her off the stool, but Christian caught her. "I'm taking you to the emergency room," he said, with fear tinging his voice. Kalina was too disoriented to argue, but when he wrapped his arm around her waist to help her down, her mind snapped. Suddenly, she was convinced he was an evil dark lighter sent to harm her. Kalina had been trained to fight, and she used what little strength she had left to swing a fist at his face. As if the air was made of clay, her delivery came out way too slow. No surprise, Christian was able to duck before she could connect. "Fight, dragon, fight," she pleaded. "I'm trying to help you, Kalina," Christian said. Was he? So what if his support was all that was keeping her upright? "I'm okay." "No, you aren't. You almost fell off the stool. Come on." Christian managed to weave them through the crowd toward the back entrance. As soon as she stepped outside, her vision turned black and her knees buckled. Asterisk, asterisk. When Kalina awoke, her head was pounding something fierce. She slowly eased her eyes open to find darkness. Where the hell was she? Only scant light filled the small, disgustingly smelly space. From the stench, this wasn't a hospital. The drugs were still in her system, and they were definitely messing with her ability to focus. Pushing up on her elbow, she looked around. But she only remained in a semi-sitting position for a moment. Weakness attacked her again, and she fell back onto what felt like a canvas resting on a bed of rocks. Even though cold dampness seeped into her body, she didn't have the energy to rub her arms to warm herself. "Don't move," her dragon warned. She racked her brain to think if she'd mentioned her last name to Christian. Even if she had, he didn't seem like the type to be after her for her money, since he was a highly successful lawyer. Or had that been a lie? Nothing made sense to her addled brain. At least if her captor demanded a ransom, her parents would find her. Whether she'd be alive or not was another matter. "Lay back down," her dragon said. "I need to heal you." Or at least try to. Kalina did as her dragon asked, and she closed her eyes once more to help center herself. A combination of unwashed bodies, mold, and stale air pushed past an acceptable level and caused bile to race up her throat. She had to force herself to reach the sink that was a mere 2 feet away. Just in time, she bent over and vomited. To add to the humility, her knees weakened, and she dropped to the filthy floor. Jeez, she had to get out of there. And she would too, if only she could figure out how. Given all of the knives surrounding her, whoops, why do I think I skipped a page? Oh no. Oh well. I skipped a page, my bad. She just notices she's in a really bad cell. There's a cot, a sink, and a toilet, and she's in a jail. But the worst thing is that the entire jail cell is surrounded by knives sticking outward into the wall. And she thought about shifting, but of course, she's 15 feet tall when she shifts, and she'd be impaled. She wondered why anyone would want to take her, but she was the head of public relations for Simcast Gems and Mines, and her family was only the most powerful in all of the province. Sorry. She had to force herself to reach the sink, and that was a mere 2 feet away. Just in time, she bent over and vomited. To add to the humility, her knees weakened, and she dropped to the filthy floor. Geez, she had to get out of there. And she would too, if only she could figure out how. Given all the knives surrounding her, shifting was out of the question. Her nearly 20-foot wings would be shredded in seconds. As Kalina inhaled deeply, her body became racked with a coughing fit. After she forced herself to calm, she rose to her feet, but instantly dropped back down as a wave of dizziness assaulted her again. Damn drugs. No one was going to stop her from doing what she needed to do, however. She was a guardian. For Goddess' sake, a dragon shifter imbued with magic and strength, she would escape. With her lungs still on fire, Kalina crawled back to the cot and dragged herself on top. One of her talents should enable her to escape. Only which one? She was strong and fast in the air, but shifting inside the cell was impossible. Cloaking only occurred in her shifted form too. Damn, if only she possessed the talent to teleport, she could be out of there right now. Then an idea struck. There were hundreds of weapons surrounding her. All she had to do was extract one of the knives from the walls and wait for her captor to return. If he was a dragon, which he suspected he was, she would stab him in the top part of her heart, the one vulnerable spot on his body. With the element of surprise on her side, she might be able to kill him. Renewed by her fresh idea, she tried to stand once more. This time she succeeded. Focusing on keeping her balance, she made it to the sink and held on, not wanting to slice her hand. When she tugged on the knife to remove it, she slipped off the lightweight jacket with the intention of wrapping it around the knife to pull it out. The moment the fabric came in contact with the metal, it jutted out from the wall another 10 inches. Shit! She brushed against the wall, the blade would have impaled her. Not good. Strong footsteps sounded down the hallway. She quickly lowered her arm and slipped on her jacket, but then had to grab the bars to steady herself. "Who's there?" she called out. A moment later, a man who was clearly a dragon shifter, wearing a khaki uniform, appeared. Unfortunately, the small logo on the pocket wasn't something she recognized, and the letters were too small to read. He handed her a metal cup through the bars, but said nothing. Not wanting to piss him off, she took his offering. "Thank you. Can you tell me why I'm here?" As he stepped closer, his sour breath made her lean back. The man opened his mouth wide and laughed. Oh, dear goddess, he had no tongue. What kind of monster would do that to another person, especially to a dragon? Acid burned in her stomach at the injustice. As she stood as straight as she could without wincing to show him she wasn't afraid, even though she really was. "I'm Kalina Sinclair. Please ask my captor to come here and face me." She hoped her name would mean something to him. The guard slammed his hand against the bars and leaned forward, as if to give her some kind of warning. He glared at her and then grinned before shuffling back down the hallway. That didn't go as well as she'd hoped. The energy drain to remain standing overwhelmed her, and she returned to the cot. Kalina needed to go over what happened with Christian in order to figure out how she'd ended up there. During the prelude to their 2-minute dance, she tried to recall if he had any hint if he had hinted at anything to indicate he was involved in some scheme to retaliate against her family, but nothing came to mind. While she'd never met him before tonight, Christian seemed like a nice guy. Gaining strength slowly, she stood and paced, assessing the situation. So far, only one guard had stopped by, but she wasn't so naive to believe that there weren't others. A whisper came from nearby, and Kalina stilled. "Hello?" Kalina called out. "Who are you?" Silence. Perhaps the caged person thought this was a trap. "I'm Kalina Sinclair. Maybe we can help each other." "Sinclair?" The woman whispered her name with reverence. Kalina's pulse sped up. "Yes, my name's Danita." "Why are you here?" she asked. That was a good question. "I'm not sure, but somebody drugged me." "Me too." The desperation of the woman's voice toward her. "Are you a white lighter?" Karina lowered her voice when she said the last two words. It seemed like the only logical explanation for why they'd both been taken. Possessing magic was highly valued in Pterodon. Yes. It was as if she was afraid to admit it in case a guard could overhear. "When did they take you?" "I think a week ago." Kalina's shoulders slumped. That was worse than she thought. As much as she wanted to speak with this woman, there was no telling if anyone would be monitoring the conversation. She looked around the hallway, checking the ceiling for any mounted cameras, but found none. How many other captors are here?" "I don't know for sure, 3 or maybe 4. Kalina returned to her pacing, careful not to walk too close to the walls. She stopped. "Are there knives sticking out of your walls?" she asked the other captive, trying to see if every cell was equipped with such torture. "Knives? No." A heavy door opened, wheels squeaked, and then what sounded like metal trays slid across the floor. 1 scraping noise, then 2, and 3. Finally, the same guard who'd handed her a drink appeared in front of her cell. He bent down and delivered a tray under the bars. Without making eye contact, he left the same way he came, implying there were 4 prisoners. Were they lightwiders too? Or had some committed crimes for real? And were any of the prisoners at the other end dragons? She glanced down at her food. The porridge looked bland, but the bowl of vegetables held some appeal. Problem was, she didn't trust they wouldn't drug her again. For the time being, she'd go hungry. Dropping onto the cot once more, she closed her eyes and allowed her mind to wander to Finn McKinnon, her safe haven each night. Even though she'd only connected with him in her dreams, He'd given her great solace. She'd been dream walking with Finn, a werewolf from the Earth realm. For a while, he was her mate. Finn was also her hero. Sure, he was incredibly handsome with a square jaw and kissable lips, and yes, his body seemed to have been sculpted by the gods. But it was his caring nature that excited her. When clients came to the bar he managed, he always listened to them. At least, that was what it seemed when she was given a vision of him in his life. But perhaps it was his sense of humor that really made her fall in love with him. Over the last few years, their minds had merged into one, communicating and feeling with such intensity, she almost felt as if they were in the same room. When she dreamed walk with him, they'd been intimate too. For her, love had bloomed. But she'd been careful not to scare him. Telling him they were mates, or that she was a dragon shifter, might have caused him to shut her out. She couldn't chance that. Didn't matter that Finn was a wolf shifter. As much as she wanted to stay awake to figure out some kind of escape plan, her best hope might be to have Finn, a man who didn't know Pterodon existed, help her. Hell, he'd asked many times whether she was real. Promising him that someday they'd meet didn't seem to be enough for him. Well, the time might be closer than he realized. To contact him, however, she needed to dream. And that meant she had to fall asleep, something that would be difficult since she had no clue who had taken her or what they planned to do with her. Despite that and the lumpy cot, she had to try, as her only hope to contact someone in the outside world would be to dream walk with Finn. Thank you. And oh, I'm so excited that so many people came and said hi. Okay, I don't want to keep you too long, but if you have any questions about the story, ask them. And if you just want to say where you are living, that would be great. I'll pick a winner next Saturday as to who will win a copy of this book. Oh, Kimberly, she said her late husband had a visit to Costa Rica on his bucket list. I plan is to finish the list for him. That is just so sweet. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. As I said, next week I'll probably start with what foods we eat here, and trust me, things don't taste like what they do in the States. Even if you go to Burger King, McDonald's, Taco Bell, all of those, Papa John's Pizza, I mean, you'd be surprised at the stuff that's here. How many are going to be in the series, Candace asks? You know, as many as I feel is necessary. At the moment, I have about 12 planned out. Not really planned, but I have 2 major families that are relatives, and they are the guardians. They've been imbued with special magic from fate, by fate, and they go fight the bad guys. They're kind of like the Avengers, sort of. But I also plan, and this is where I'll probably need some of your help after you read a story or 2. I plan to intersperse in there 4 stories that are novellas. They'll be in a little different series. And in this book, I have the 4 Sisters of Fate. They are crazy people. No one knows really what they are, but they can do amazing things. And they're Magnolia, Primrose, Poppy, and Acacia. And they're immortal. And they're sort of wacky. And they never seem to leave the pottery shop. But I'm going to pair them up. And I don't even know what I'm going to do with them. I want to make it funny, which is not the usual style here, but it's going to be in a little different series. But yes, Kimberly, I do have an art team. If you would like to be on my art team, I'll be happy to put you down. I've got like 75 on the team, but I'm always happy to add more. The deal is, if I send you an arc, I'm obsessive about things. She'll find out. I was a math teacher for 100 years, and I do spreadsheets, and I keep track of everything. So I have a little color-coded spreadsheet that if I send you an ARC, I note it, and if you don't review, then I figured, great, you're not interested, and it'll go from there. Thank you, Rachel. I will put you down and I will send you the link for the ARC. Yeah, Colina's brothers will all have their own book, as will her sister and her cousins. It's like two families, because the mothers used to be royal figures until they decided the royal life wasn't for them, and they left their third sister, who still lives in the castle, and the royals are evil, and the sisters didn't want anything to do with it, so they married these two hot men, and they each had like 5 kids or 6, and so that's where the stories come from. But one reader, I think it was Tina Bentley, had said something about a water dragon. I'm like, oh, water dragon. I didn't even know one of those existed. So for fun, I wrote him in to book 2. Now, you don't know who he is, but I do. And he'll probably get his own story. Whether he'll be paired with one of the 4 crazy-ass pottery ladies who, they can change people's faces, they can teleport, they can do anything. And but it'll take a couple books to figure out what they are. So the stories are the usual hot level, hot sex, and they're dragons. These particular guys, the Sinclairs and the Caspians, all dragons are, not all dragons, in the province, there's 4 provinces, are pretty much black, but my guardians have colored scales interspersed with the black, so you can tell who they are when they're flying around, so we can identify them. And when they get sexually excited, their scales glow. So it's really kind of fun to do that. Ooh, water, earth, wind, and fire are generally, oh, okay. There are a lot of people have that. Have to think about that. I'm totally open. If you want to make a suggestion, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. I do have some ideas. I am pairing one of the, book 4 will pair one of the head dragons with Finn's twin sister back in Silver Lake. So yes, we do go back to Silver Lake. We see some of the other characters, but again, I try to make it so that you didn't have to read that other series to really appreciate it. But recognize that in Silver Lake, they don't even know till book 10 that dragons exist. And book 10 of the Silver Lake series is the transition book where we actually meet the first dragon, and he's from Pterodon, and it's Emily and Connor's story. So if you pick up nothing, or if you want to do 2 books, I would do the first one, which is free, and then book 10, Melting His Guarded Heart, because that one talks about Pterodon and what the lore is, though much of the lore isn't right, but you know, that's what happens. So over the next week, if you have your questions, I'll be happy to answer them, and anybody who makes a comment, whatever it is eligible to win a free book. If you are interested in being on my ARC team, of which you will get all the books free, if, bye Rachel, if you get all the books free if you review. And I'm not expecting when you do review for you to give a synopsis. I would prefer you not to. Just say, great story, love the characters, can't wait for more. Anything like that. Or, you know, this wasn't one of the best, and if you want to give me a 3, this is okay too. I prefer not to be bashed saying this is the worst book you've ever read. But yeah, I'll be happy to do that. Oh, I love you, Candace. She buys all my books. She's awesome. So thank you so much for being here. And tell me, I think reading a whole chapter is a little too long. Certainly I can read an excerpt, but again, I just as soon sit here and chat with you about your questions and giving me ideas. are really fantastic. Now, I have built my world, so sometimes, since I've already written the first 3 books, I can't change some things, but you know, I'm writing for another 20 years, so certainly I do have another spin-off, Cargonia, which was in the other series. That's another one. That's another realm that we may go into, or it'll have its own series, and I can certainly make up worlds there too. So I want to thank you for visiting me, and I will see you same time next week. And the only time I may not be here is possibly in 2 weeks, when my friend Erica is visiting, but maybe I can have her as a guest artist. So thank you, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.